This will never happen again. We will never be alone. We didn't even have a gun on him. We didn't even have a gun on him.
As we were eating, we heard Jerry Cooper state that the Klan were moving. So at that point, we dropped our meals and took off to the rally point. When we got there, no one else was there.
When the Klan and Nazis arrived, there wasn't a single police anywhere to be found.
We heard on the radio that the convoy was getting closer. So at that point, we knew how close they were. They just around the corner from us. So we decided to go down to the church where we knew that we'd come by off Everett Street and see what they looked like in their hoods, talking about the Klan.
When the caravan first came through, I didn't know what was going on until about 3 cars or 4 cars down, and I saw a Confederate sign, and I just associated that with clans, and I associated clans with trouble, you know, being that I had been in the stuff with my mother before.
There were some exchanges of words between people in those cars and people who were assembling for the march.
And that's when I started sensing real danger, because I was in the street with Aya. We were in the street.
A shot was fired out of one of the lead vehicles driven by Edward Dawson, who was under the pay at that time of the Greensboro Police Department and was one of their informants. Once that shot was fired, a certain level of panic set in, that people tended to move away from the shot, to run away from it, frankly. There was a brawl. People jumped out of Klan and Nazi cars with sticks and knives.
And I started backing up, and when I backed up, when I got to the curb, that's when the shooting started. And it was a scary time.
We're very scared. Didn't quite understand what was going on or why. We did know that it was a very dangerous situation. Our parents instructed us to run.
That quickly ceased, and when it did, one of the cars, I'm not sure the number, but near the end of the march, was completely stopped. All the individuals were outside of it, opened the trunk, took out
ammunition, guns, load them, carefully aim with a cigarette dangling out of their mouth, shooting at people. That certainly does not look like somebody shooting back at them, and they pick people off.
Just before we got there, we heard shots was being fired. So we started looking out for cars coming by, and they mentioned about a van. We saw several cars coming down Everett Street, then finally we saw a van coming down Everett Street, going real slow. I saw a guy running, a white male running to get inside the van. When he did, I jumped out of the van and stood behind a brick column with the church there. As the van approached me, I stepped around the corner with a shotgun and hollered at the driver to freeze, police. The driver looked at me and didn't know what to do. I could tell there's other people in the van because the van was shaking. At that point, the driver started to continue forward, and my partner jumped in the vehicle and blocked the street. At that time, we could not get on the radio to tell communications that we had the van stopped because there's so much controversy on the radio. At that time, we still did not know what had happened, just 75 yards away.
Killed 5 people. 4 died on the spot, 1 died a day or so later, and wounded 9 others and terrorized that community.
We knocked on doors. People were scared. They didn't let us in. We knocked and knocked and knocked.
They were shutting doors in our face. And finally a lady had opened the door. When we got inside the house, I remember sitting in the house beside Ida on the couch.
All the children, we dispersed, but somehow ended up in the same apartment. She may have been the only person letting us in, I don't know.
Finally, I switched to another frequency and called communications and told them we had the van and several people in custody. And finally finally other officers come down to help us.
Please get an ambulance.
Dude, we get an ambulance, get him right here. She's right.
5 people were shot and killed. I knew then that this could not be accidental, and I said so.
It is Jim Melvin! It is the capitalist class! And so we declare war against them! War! Our people lay down on the ground! Because these dogs, these pigs, these representatives of the imperialists! It's gonna be war! It's gonna be war! I'm on your side! It's gonna be war! Say I'm not down! Say I'm not down the green! Pick up the banner!
And as I raised my voice on this occasion, having been stabbed myself, the police came and insisted that I stop talking, and I refused to do it. They then placed me under arrest. Threw me to the ground and drugged me bleeding under a fence. And when several people attempted to prevent them from doing that, they were arrested as well.
And I remember I was hollering along with other people, where's my mother? And it was, where's their father? Where's my this and that? And she just started rattling off names. Jim's dead, Sandy's dead, Caesar's dead. And you know, I'm still hollering, where's my mother? Where's my mother? She said, Mike's dead. And at that, you're getting, you know, I'm really thinking that she's gonna say, and Walena's dead. And I'm probably sure I was thinking that Nelson, you know, she's gonna say that. But she looked at me and said, your mama's in jail. At that time, I was happy. You know, I mean, not happy that people had gotten killed, but at least happy because I knew that my mother was safe.
Subsequently, I was charged with inciting to riot. And as I understand the law, that when you incite to riot and death occurs, that you can be charged with the death itself.
Klan were very cooperative. You couldn't ask anybody to be any more cooperative than what they were. They did everything we told them to. When I stepped around the corner and hollered at the guy, he was in shock. I was in riot gear. He didn't, just looked at his eyes, I can still remember he was just in shock. He didn't know what to do.
And at one point I found myself under over $100,000 bond, while the Klansmen who were filmed killing people were never placed under more than $50,000.
Well, in my opinion, what they did, the reason they picked this neighborhood, because all the years I worked in that area, if you had any sign of police or any sign of gathering, everybody come out and see what's going on, because a lot of them didn't have anything else to do.
I think one of the miracles here, because there were a number of innocent bystanders, residents of the Morningside Homes neighborhood.
The neighborhood's Morningside Homes, which at that time was one of a real low-class neighborhood, and it was the most violent neighborhood we had in Greensboro. It's predominantly black. No innocent bystander was wounded or killed. And to me, that's a miracle. A lot of you people there that morning, just innocent bystanders. They just out. I'm not sitting there participating in the march. I really don't know, but just from my experience, they just come out and see what was going on. Something to do.
You know, I've said this publicly several times, and I'll say it again. I think it was our community's finest hour. Now, before anybody jumps to any conclusions as to why I would say that when you have a tragedy or a catastrophe or some kind of event in your community, whether your systems work or not is a good testimony as to what kind of community you had. From that event, we did not have one other single act of violence.
National Guard came in when we had our funeral, and it was a frightening situation to see the bayonets turned in on us as we carried our dead to the graveyard. The group at the time was called the Worker Viewpoint Organization. A day later, it changed its name to the Communist Workers' Party. And from that day on, this word communism haunted this whole affair. And it's almost as if this were hatched up in Peking or in the mind of Pol Pot
In 1979 and in 1980 and then again in 1985 when our trial went on, that was the middle of the Reagan era, and there was major Cold War activities. So to be called and labeled communist was a real way to undermine and create a notion almost that you're less than human, therefore you don't deserve any rights, you don't deserve any protection.
I don't know of anybody in America who wants to be part of the communist movement, especially in those days.
We knew that the American principles of equal protection and due process of law had to be enforced to apply to every human being.
Communist means to me is people are not free to seek their own course.
That you cannot justify or disregard killing a person on the streets in cold blood in front of cameras because you might contend that they were communists or because they actually were communists.
Communism's dead in America, maybe dead in the world. And they were here, I think, trying to organize the textile workers. And the textile workers wanted no part of the Communist Workers' Party.
The cone mills plants. They were getting concessions, protection. The workers were learning what their rights were. They studied it with the union officials. It was no sellout. Union officials is really getting some gains. So it did not benefit the company to have these people around doing this.
Some of them gave up high-paying jobs in the medical field, had degrees with honor, and went to work working second shift at a textile plant.
And they were getting nowhere with that effort. And there had been several confrontations at the mill gates where these people were trying to get these people to join their group and be activists, and of course they wanted no part of it.
In fact, the government is here for a company, not for the people. So once Cone Mills and other companies saying that we were a problem, then the government helped to get rid of us. Whatever intimidation, actually until some of the people were killed.
You know, it's a great tragedy when you stop and think about it. 3 of these people were in medical school or educated doctors from Duke University. And to cause themselves to be killed over something like this is, you know, maybe they're martyrs, I don't know.
Unfortunately, our society is sometimes so cynical that we aren't willing to believe that there's some people who really commit their life to social justice. So they have to attribute some other motive. Like, it's not just that you want fairness. You must want to promote your ego. You must want to promote your little party.
It's a great tragedy that these people lost their lives for I don't know what.